You're in control, is there anywhere you wanna go? You're in control, is there anything you wanna know? The future's for discovering, the space in which we're traveling.
What's your early memories of games consoles?
When I was about 10, we had a ZX Spectrum. In those days you could design your own computer games by using computer code, and we designed a game called Hangman. When we was bored of that, we bought a few computer games, and they were loaded onto the computer with a external cassette player linked with a wire. They used to take 5 minutes to load up, and it used to make a lot of screeching noises. We had Hoist Go Skiing, and a popular game at the time was Daddy Thompson's Decathlon, and you used to play the game by hitting the keys on the rubber keyboard. You used to do this really hard with your fingers, and your fingers would get really stiff after a couple of hours playing. So that was one of my first games.
What other games did you have in your ZX Spectrum?
So we had Hoist Go Skiing, so that was what I mentioned earlier. That was a simple game with simple graphics where a man with a little man and a little outline went down a ski slope. It was very basic, you just had to go through the flags. Football Manager was a good game, I had that. You started in the 4th division and you had to win all your games to get promoted, and that would take about 3 solid days to get to the 1st division. So what I used to do was leave the computer on overnight with the telly turned off, so my mum and dad didn't know I had it on overnight. It would take 3 or 4 days to get to the top division, you couldn't save it.
What games did you have on your Sega Mega Drive?
I got my Mega Drive in about 1991, and when you bought it you got a game called Altered Beast included, which I completed. It was about I think a warrior who went through different stages in the game, and he got power-ups, and he became different animals, which is why it's called Altered Beast, very original name. And that was one of the games you got with it. I also got a game called Sonic the Hedgehog, which you must have heard of. That was a really good fun game, which everyone enjoyed playing at the time. Also had other games, a racing game and a golf game. They were great fun, and it was really one of the best computer games at the time because the graphics and sound were leading edge at the time.
How much was a game back then?
I used to start buying games when I started senior school at Francis Coombe. So around 13, we used to save our dinner money up, which I used to get £1 a day, and you could buy a main course and a pudding and a drink for that in those days. But I didn't spend all of it, so I used to buy the cheapest thing on the menu, which was chips, and save the rest up. And also my pocket money, which was £2 a week. And then after about a month, I could afford to go down to W.H. Smith's in Watford, which was in those days where Poundland is. And I buy myself a game, and they were cassettes in those days, and they cost about £10.
Under the surface trying to break through, deciphering the code to me. I need a compass, draw me a map. I'm on the top, I can't get back.
What's your early memories of games consoles?
Back a few years ago, about 7 years ago, I used to have a Sega Mega Drive and a Nintendo 64. I used to play all the old games like Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario 64, and they were really quite good games. I didn't really have many new game consoles. I did get a Nintendo GameCube, but apart from that, it always used to be all the old games because I used to prefer them.
Why did you decide to get a Sega Mega Drive instead of other consoles that were around at the time?
Because I always used to prefer all the old games because the new games kind of seemed they weren't really appealing. For example, Sonic the Hedgehog, that always used to be a very entertaining, fast, fun game, whereas all the other new games kind of seemed kind of boring and linear.
What portable games consoles have you had?
I've had a Nintendo DS.
What games did you play on your DS?
I used to play games like Super Mario 64 DS, Mario Kart, and Sonic Rush.
Do you prefer portable games consoles or a normal games console?
I seem to prefer the more normal games consoles because with the portable game consoles the screen seems too small and it's kind of fiddly, so I prefer to have a big screen and a controller which I can hold in my hands comfortably.
Have you ever had any portable games consoles?
The only portable games console I've had was probably about 5 years ago when I got a PSP. Why did I get that? They're all the rage, and I started working in London, so I wanted to use it on the train rather than reading the paper. And it also had the benefit of the fact that I could link up with my son Oliver and play FIFA.
Do you prefer a portable console or a home console?
I prefer the home console because you get better graphics, better sounds and more functionality, so you can go on the internet and play DVDs. That's my preference.
Is there anybody out there who is lost and hurt and lonely too? Are they bleeding all your colors into one? And if you come undone as if you'd been run through some catapult that fired you, you wonder if your chance will ever come, or if you're stuck in square one.
Marko Arnautovic. Carroll! And it's in! The header! Great goal!
A goal from Carroll. All about timing this one. And the way he steered it into the bottom left was superb.
It's a goal worth looking at again, isn't it?
some of your favourite games?
3 examples are Sonic the Hedgehog, the BioShock franchise, and Borderlands 2.
What's your favourite ever game?
That's a difficult one. I've probably got 2 favourites. I've got my one back in the day, from about the early 90s, is probably Outrun. I love driving games, and it had great music, great graphics, and lots of different varieties. So that's my favourite old-time game. Current game has got to be FIFA. Just love playing it. You can play by yourself, you can play friends at home, or you can go on the internet and play people all around the world. So I love that game.